Hello and welcome back to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. It's your coach, Kavita. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you for tuning in. I don't take it lightly that you're here. And if you're new to the podcast, I welcome you to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast family. Today, I want to talk to you about a moment that a lot of women I work with describe. And maybe you felt it too. You've done the reflection. You've sat with the questions. You've started to understand what lights you up, what you're good at, what matters to you. Your Ikigai, or your reason for being, in this season of life is beginning to take shape. And yet, you're still not moving. The next step is right there, and you can see it clearly, but something keeps pulling you back. And the story you tell yourself is, I'm just not confident enough yet. I want to offer you a different way of looking at that today. Because in my own experience, both in my own transition and in working with women through theirs, the confidence gap isn't a sign that you're not ready. It's a sign that you've been waiting for confidence to show up before you begin. And that's actually backwards. Confidence doesn't come before the step, it comes from the step. Before we go further, I want to make sure we're on the same page about Ikigai, because everything in this episode builds on it. Ikigai is an Okinawan concept that translates roughly into reason for being. It's your purpose, your reason to get up in the morning. In the context of a career and life transition, it's found at the intersection of four things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Where all four intersect or overlap, that's your Ikigai. If you're new to this concept or want to go deeper on how to actually find yours, you can go back to episode 213, as well as many episodes that follow, especially the ones with the author of the book, Ikigai, Francis Morales. And I'll put the link to these episodes in the show notes so you can go back and listen to them. For today, however, what matters is this. Your Ikigai is essentially a map of your strengths, your values, and your passions. And that map is a foundation that real confidence is built on. The dictionary definition of confidence is a feeling of self-assurance arising from your appreciation of your own abilities and qualities. Again, it's a feeling of self-assurance arising from your appreciation of your own abilities and qualities. I love that definition because when you look at it closely, you realize something. The Ikigai process, understanding what you love, what you're good at, what you value, and what the world needs, is literally the work of excavating those abilities and qualities. Whether you've done that work formally or you're just beginning to ask those questions, you're already building the foundation. The material is there. The confidence just hasn't been assembled yet. And you're not starting from scratch, my friend. You are connecting what you already know about yourself with the courage to act upon it. Before we get to that connection, I want to name something honestly because I think it's important. There are three quiet ways that women, and I say women specifically because this is deeply tied to how many of us were raised, how we undermine our own confidence without even realizing it. The first way we do that is with the words that we say. Take a moment and think about the language you use every day, in conversation, in emails, in how you introduce yourself. Do you say things like, I just think, instead of, I think? Do you apologize before making a point, like, sorry to bother you, but? Do you hide your perspective behind a question? Does everyone feel good about this? When you actually mean, I don't think this is the right direction. These small words are not small. They signal to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that your voice deserves to take up less space than it does. The second way that we often undermine ourselves is with the thoughts we think. Gay Hendricks says it beautifully. We keep ourselves so tied up in regretting the past and fearing the future that we don't have any energy left to figure out who we are and what we want to create right now. The fears are real. It's a fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of what people will say. I lived in that fear for 3 years before I finally left my corporate career. 3 years of knowing, yet not moving. Because the thought of stepping outside my comfort zone felt bigger than the pain of staying. What I know now, and what I want you to hear, is that those fears are almost always imagined projections of a future that hasn't happened yet. The third thing that we do often is in the actions that we avoid. This one is sneaky because it disguises itself as responsibility. I have to finish this before I can start that. I need one more qualification. I need to know it's perfect before I put it out into the world. One woman I worked with called it pre-work. She had a whole list of things she felt she needed to do before she could actually begin. And what we discovered together was that pre-work was actually the work. The thing that she was preparing for was actually the thing she was already doing. Does that sound familiar? So these 3 patterns, the words, the thoughts, and the actions, are what stand between you and the confidence you're waiting for. But here's what changes everything. Your Ikigai doesn't just point you towards meaningful work. It gives you the evidence to dismantle those 3 patterns. When you know your strengths, really know them, because you've spent time naming them, the words you start to say shift. You're not apologizing from a perspective that is grounded in something real. You're not hedging a point of view that you've earned. The self-assurance begins to come naturally because it's attached to something true about you rather than something borrowed from what you think you're supposed to be. When your values are clear, the fearful thoughts lose some of their grip. Because instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you start asking, "What if this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing?" Research on people with a strong sense of purpose, and Ikigai sits at the heart of that, consistently shows that they don't experience less uncertainty than the rest of us. They simply have a compass that helps them move through it. People with clear purpose don't avoid chaos. They navigate it better because they have an internal reference point that external turbulence can't shake. And when you have an aligned next step, even a small one, the avoidance starts to break down. Because the action no longer feels like a leap into the unknown. It feels like a logical extension of what you already know to be true about yourself. For example, I never imagined I would be hosting a podcast. But I recorded one episode and published it, and then another and another. And now I'm close to 300 episodes later. And I can tell you with certainty that the confidence didn't come before episode 1. It came because of it. I'd like to give you something practical that you can use this week, and it comes from the work of Linda Rosetti, who is an expert on transitions and someone who I've trained with. She's also the author of a book called Dancing with Disruptions, among other books. And it's one of the most quietly transformative exercises I've actually ever encountered. When we're in a transition, one of the hardest things is knowing how to talk about ourselves. Someone may ask you, "So what are you doing now?" And we fumble. We either over-explain the old career, or we apologetically describe the in-between, or we trail off into, "Well, it's complicated." That fumbling and that uncertainty in how we introduce ourselves chips away at our confidence every single time. Linda's research found that most of us tell our stories chronologically. And in a transition, a chronological story tends to lead with the gap, the change, and the loss. It focuses on what ended rather than what's emerging. And that framing, even when it's completely accurate, tends to land as uncertainty rather than a direction. What she suggests instead is telling our stories through the lens of our values. And I'll give you an example from my own life. A chronological version of my own transition may sound like this. After 25 years in the corporate world, I realized I wasn't as fulfilled as I used to be. I wasn't using my strengths to the utmost, and I made this decision to leave and start over. That statement is true, but notice how it lands. It focuses on what wasn't working, and it leads with the negative. Now here's the same story told through one of my core values, and that is the importance of giving others the space to be heard. Here's what it sounds like with that value lens. Throughout my career, I've always been someone who gives people the space to be truly heard. In sales, that meant listening deeply to my customers, understanding their needs, and building trust. That value has never left me. It just found a new expression when I became a coach for women navigating their own transitions. The audience is different, the fulfillment is the same, and actually deeper. So did you hear the difference there? It's the same facts, same life. The second version doesn't apologize for the change. It shows continuity of character throughout the change. And when you tell your story that way, something shifts inside you too. You stop experiencing your transition as a disruption to your identity and start recognizing it as an expression of it. I'd like you to think about what your top 3 values are, which may have been woven throughout your life. And then pick one of them, one of the most important ones. Then try rewriting your introduction, not chronologically, but through that value lens. See how much more confident you feel saying it out loud. Building confidence isn't a single moment, it's a practice, and small daily habits matter more than people realize. A few that I found most grounding during a transition include some of these. The first is start each day by visualizing the woman you're becoming. I call her your inner mentor. Let her remind you what's possible. If you actually want an actual visualization exercise I take my clients through, you can reach out to me and I can send it to you. Just email me at kavita@itsmytimenowcoaching.com and I'll send it to you. The next habit is to journal your thoughts, even briefly. Getting the fear out of your head and onto a page takes away its power. Take one action daily that moves you forward, even a small one. And perhaps more importantly, go from I can't because to I can because. The second half of that sentence, the because, is where your Ikigai lives. We started today with a feeling I think a lot of you know well. You've done the reflection, you can feel what you want, and yet the first step feels out of reach. I promised you a different way of looking at that, and I hope today delivered it. You now know that confidence isn't a prerequisite for the next step, it's a result of it. You know what's been quietly getting in your way, the words, the thoughts, and the avoidance dressed up as preparation. You have a tool, the value-based story tool, that can shift how you see yourself and how the world sees you. And you have a handful of daily practices to keep building from there. The gap between knowing and doing doesn't close all at once. It closes one aligned step at a time, and you are more ready than you think. If today's episode stirred something in you, I want to leave you with 2 invitations, and you'll know which one is for you. If you're ready to start building confidence habits right now, download my free 28 Days to Building Confidence guide. It's practical, it's grounding, and it's designed to meet you exactly where you are. The link is in the show notes. And if what today's episode surfaced is something bigger, if you're still sitting with the realization that you're not clear on your Ikigai, on what you truly want in this next chapter, and what's been really holding you back, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Book a clarity and next chapter call with me through the link in the show notes. It's not a commitment, it's a conversation. Just the two of us figuring out together where you are and what your next steps look like. Because confidence doesn't start with having all the answers, it starts with being honest about where you are and deciding to take one step forward from there. You're more ready than you think. And remember, you get to decide what comes next. So say it with me. Say it with confidence. It's my time now.